Hey guys, good morning, Creator Mom. So, um, recently I had a couple of deaths in my family. Um, more one was a more distant relative, a little bit, and then the other was a relative that I'm not very close with, but like somebody I grew up around. You know, not somebody who I'm like close with right now that I see on a daily basis or anything like that. But as I was growing up, the family members that you hang out with often, or that maybe you spend Christmas with, you do family gatherings with, a cousin. And it's just interesting because every time somebody dies, it just makes me think. It makes me think like it's so interesting because it's always like a shock, but then it's always like, well, we are going to die. Like we are all marching towards the same place. Like we're all marching to the grave. And that's, it could be a dark thought, but it's a humbling thought. It's a true thought. And that it just makes you reflect on what you think about death and how you feel about death. And are you afraid of dying? And I feel like bit by bit, I'm getting more comfortable with the idea of death. I'm not going to say there isn't fear, because it's just like death is something that you don't experience until you experience it. So it's kind of like fear of the unknown. Like, what is that experience going to be like? And I'm not talking about what's going to happen after you die. I know people have their own beliefs about that situation. I mean the actual experience of dying, like the actual experience of taking your last breath. But it's interesting because then it makes me think about birth, like when we were born. Like, I don't remember being born. Will I remember dying? And will I remember the experience of dying? It's kind of like when you fall asleep. Like, do you remember when you fell asleep? Like, no. Somehow we go from this state of awakeness to this state of sleep, and we don't really remember like the transition. We remember maybe getting sleepy, but it's just like boom, all of a sudden we're knocked out, we're asleep, and then we wake up. And maybe death is that way. Maybe it's kind of like going into a sleep, which, I mean, I'm sure thousands, millions of people probably said or wrote about death, going off into a sleep. I think the Bible even likens it to going off into a deep sleep, which falling asleep is amazing. I love the process of falling asleep. I hate when I can't fall asleep, you know what I'm saying? But drifting off into getting sleepy and falling into a nice sleep is always wonderful and amazing. So I think maybe I'll liken the experience of death unto that. And I think that getting into and working on the fear of death is a worthy cause, because it's something that we're all going to experience, and might as well just get comfortable with it and decide now. This is so funny because I was thinking about making a video about this before, but I didn't. But I guess now is the perfect time, about deciding, can we decide in advance what it's going to be like when we die? Can we like almost like plan our death in a way, I don't know, death has always had this mysterious thing around it. It's like, you never know when you're going to die, and you don't never know when death is going to take you away, But I was thinking, how people, do manifestation, you kind of like envision or see your future, and like you can experience it because what you can see in your mind, you can have. I was just reading this book by Frances Global Shin or whatever, I think that's her name. The Game of Life. Well, anyways, she talks about how in the Bible, it's like God says, like whatever you can see in your mind and believe for, like that you can have, right? Whatever you believe. So I thought, like, what if I can believe for my death? What if I can believe in advance for my experience of death, that I can see myself lying on what they would call my deathbed, but I feel and I see myself and I feel peaceful. I feel at ease. I feel like everything that I wanted to do in my life, I've done. I feel accomplished. I feel lovely. I feel worthy. I feel wonderful. Like, I feel peaceful most of all. Like, I want to envision seeing myself dying and feeling peaceful, you know? I think that's a worthy vision, because I feel like, you know, how Neville Goddard says, well, go to the end, right? What do you want in life? Go to the end, meaning like you already have that. And I'm like, wow, going to the end, like to actual death would be like the ultimate going to the end, right? Like, I've went to the end of my life and I have felt in that vision that I have accomplished all that I ever wanted to, that life was wonderful, and I am glad about the experience that I've had here in this physical body. And I don't know where I'm going next, but what I've seen and felt so far, like, I feel at peace with. I feel good about it. So yeah, I don't know, I was thinking that. I was like, I wonder if anybody's ever talked about that. Like, hey, go to the end, go to like your death, and just see that everything in your life you ever wanted to do has been done. So yeah, having family member dies kind of made me go down that rabbit trail. And I was thinking, if my cousin, knowing what I knew his personality to be like, he's a bit older than me, like an older cousin. He was probably in his later 50s. If he was here standing next to me right now, but as a dead person, like he had already died, like his spirit was here talking to me or whatever. And I was like, so Andre, what was it like to die? Like, what do you think about this whole thing? Like, I feel like he would be like, not sad at all. Like, I feel like he'd be like, Sheena, we're all going to die. You know what I mean? Anyways, we're going to die. And here I am. What are you going to do? You have to live life the best way you can. Go and accomplish the things that you want to. Live your life to the fullest, as they say. You know, then you start to see things from that reverse perspective. And maybe seeing things from that perspective helps ease up on the fear and doubts of life a little bit. Like, hey, I only have this small window of time, you know, in this physical world. I'm not sure what's going to take place afterwards, but I have this small window of time to like have fun and to like to believe God for the impossible in my life, you know, and that's so cool. And let me just take advantage of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I just feel like he would just be like totally cool with it. Like, girl, it's all good. You know what I'm saying? We're all gonna die. I just happen to die sooner than later, you know. It's just, you know, I get it. It is sad for the people who are close to a person, because it's like you want that person in the physical world with you. You want to experience. It's sad when you lose somebody who's close to you and they die, because you miss living life with that person, you know. So, and going through that grieving process. But I feel like if that dead person could talk to us, they would be like, yo, chill. It's all good. Just keep trying to enjoy your life. You got this. All right, I'll meet you on the other side, right? I don't know. Well, so yeah, that's enough about death that I wanted to talk about. And again, like I said, I've been reading this book by Frances, and it's very like inspiring. But it's not saying anything totally new, but it's like the truth. Every time you hear it and hear it and hear it, it just never, it always edifies. It never fails, you know? And, you know, again, she was talking about the scripture, man is given what he or she, humans, whatever people are given, what they can see. If you can't see it for yourself, then you won't have it. You know, and in that way, I think that life is fair, you know, for us adults. I always have to clarify that, because I know people like to go into thinking about children who are suffering and stuff like that. But I'm just speaking for, you know, us adults right now, that if you can see it, and children too. Hey, look, I mean, what about that, I think it was an inspiring movie about the Indian kid. I forgot what it's called, but if you're watching this, you probably know what it's called. There are inspiring stories about kids who believed and saw themselves out of situations. But anyways, I'm speaking towards adults here, and what we can see, we can have. And in that way, like I was saying, like life is fair. We can't say, and we can't be angry that someone else has something and you're stealing from me, or it's just like, keep your eyes upon yourself, keep your eyes on what you want, and don't think that someone outside of you is preventing you from having what you want. Believe in this law, that what you can see, you can have, And she talks about how, like, sometimes when you're in a situation, it is hard for you to see things differently because you're the one seeing it, experiencing it. You know what I'm saying? You're the one who has to deal with those feelings of doubt and fear. But it's always nice to have somebody come along and kind of like believe with you. You know what I'm saying? Like touch and agree, if you will. Because we're not always feeling like strong and full of faith. Sometimes fear and doubt, which is the temptations, do overtake us, you know what I'm saying, for a moment in time, which is fine. And then we get back on our track, or we have somebody come and help us and empower us and inspire us back up, which is good. That is good. That's what brotherly love is. That's what we do for one another. When you can't believe, like, I'll believe for you, I'll hold you up in my heart and spiritually in that way. It's good for us to do that for one another because we're not always feeling strong, okay, right? So it's all according to our faith. And it's fair because we all have the same measure of faith. We all have the same God and power working within us. So, and I was thinking that this is why it's so important to recover from narcissistic abuse or any to take a look at our limiting beliefs and stuff like that. Because if this law is real, then, and we realize, holy shit, I'm the only one kind of holding me back mentally in my mind, because the mind will fuck with you and make you want to reason all the ways why you can't do that thing. You can't have that thing because of this and this and this and that. And it will give you all, you know what I'm saying? It's the worst. It'll give you all these reasons why, like, what you feel in your heart cannot be done. So, but we can face those. I think it's good to acknowledge those. Like, oh wow, like this morning I was sitting like reading and meditating and pondering these things for myself, and a thought came up that I had never even knew was down there, whatever. It was just like about poverty, about being destined to be poor. And I was like, damn, that's fucked up. And I was thinking, I wonder if the way that I grew up had anything to do with that. I'm like, probably, but I'm like, this is so interesting. I'm glad that this is coming up. And I don't know necessarily how to get rid of that, but I think that acknowledging that is like a first step, like becoming aware, like, okay, like if you think about being rich and living a great life and you get full of fear, it's like, wow, this emotion of fear is actually attached to me having money and me being successful. I wonder why. And kind of like inquiring, like a self-inquiry about why that is. See, because that's the emotional block, as they say, the block, but that's the emotion behind that thought. It's like, oh, this is what I want, but my emotions are filled with fear about this thought. Like, let me inquire about this and see what's going on. So it's all about self-inquiry. But yeah, healing from the narcissistic abuse is really good in that way because it can help clear up our mind and help us see what we want to see for our lives, and realize that maybe a lot of the thoughts that we were thinking were actually thoughts that were passed down to us. I heard someone say that freaking your parents can like telepathically, we're spiritual beings, so we're telepathically sending messages, right, all the time, and that like kids can receive telepathically from their parents, which is wild, because of course kids can pick up on your energy too. They can pick up on your thoughts. They pick up on your facial expressions. They pick up on when you're trying to manipulate them. They pick up on when you're trying to coax them into doing something because you think it's good. They pick up on everything. They already know. They know. They're smart. They're intuitive. So anyways, we probably picked up on things that we weren't even aware that we picked up on. But as we now in adulthood, as we do self-inquiry, we become aware, and we're like, okay, wow, I let that go. Like, I don't want that. And then another thing I was thinking that is that this is why it's important to nurture a child's imagination, right? Because don't fuck with what somebody sees. If somebody sees a good vision for themselves, or they see themselves being a freaking all-star basketball player, whatever, like famous, don't come in and try to say no, or you can't do that, or that's not going to happen, or how's that going to happen. We need to nurture a child's imagination, because they're revealing to us who they are. They're revealing to us who they're going to be, because who they are is already in them. I believe that wholeheartedly. Like, who we are, our essence, our person is there when we're born. And as we're growing, it's a revelation, it's a revealing of who we are. So when your kids are growing, somebody said this quote I thought was really good. It was like, become a student of your children. I'm like, damn, that's powerful. Become a student of your child, because there's a revelation opening up right before your eyes. Okay, like, children aren't buckets for us to like pound stuff into. Really, they're there for you to see. Like, it's a revealing of a person, it's a blossoming of a flower, and you're like, oh wow. And they will tell you what their visions are through their imaginations, and through their playing. You will get to know this person that's been set before you. So, and then you're there as a parent to nurture that, to feed that, to see how can I nurture that? How can I put money into that? You know what I'm saying? Like, how can I support that? That's really like our role. So yeah, a child is a revelation right before your eyes, a revealing of a person. And as they grow and get to know themselves and are allowed, to do that, are allowed to use their imagination and to play and to think and to observe, they get to understand and know who they are. And then they show you who they are, and you support that. We try to support that as best we can, and we heal from our own limitations. Because if we're doubting our kids, and if we doubt their vision, we're really just doubting ourselves. We're doubting our abilities. I did that. Like, my child was telling me about his vision, and I was just like, I think I made a face of doubt, like, oh, I don't know, I don't like it. And I'm like, I don't know, I don't know how that's gonna happen. He told me straight up, he was like, he's 8 years old, he said, don't doubt. I'm like, you're right, I shouldn't doubt. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you don't always know how things are going to come to pass, but the reasoning mind wants to doubt when it can't see how things are going to come to pass. But it's okay. We just acknowledge that and move forward. Yeah. The last quote that I wrote down from her book was, a person, or she wrote, has only the land within his own mental vision. So yeah, everything you want, take it all. Take it all in your mind first, because it is so true that if you're not first thinking it, if you're not meditating on it, or if you can't allow yourself to even think of how life would be if you had the thing that you wanted, then why would you expect that it would even come to pass? Anyways, that's it for now. 20 minutes, boom.